is to be really targeted around the drivers and the cohorts that are most susceptible to this. So if you look in Victoria, a couple of years ago, they took a similar approach. They saw young drivers were 15 times more likely to be killed than anyone else. So they developed a scheme that was providing incentives for young drivers to get into new modern cars, as opposed to taking older cars, which is typically, this is our cohort that is most susceptible and are typically the ones driving the oldest, cheapest cars on the road. So providing an incentive to enable that.
So when you say incentive, are you talking about what, like a few $1,000s or something to help somebody upgrade? Is that kind of the thing you have in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Victoria's case, they were putting $5,000 towards the cost of a car. And when you look at how we can achieve that, if you look at things like the Road Trauma Fund, obviously a lot of the people would be aware that's a growing fund for us in WA, and a lot of the direction of that currently goes into the positive things like infrastructure, improving roads, education and awareness and enforcement. But there's nothing specific at the moment around enabling better technology to be out there. So the simple fact is it's the vehicles that people are driving that we've got probably the greatest ability to make change, because we've been improving our roads for many years and they're fantastic. We've been running fantastic education programs for many, many years. But there was a bit of research from ANCAP a few years back that basically said you are 4 times more likely to die in a accident in an older vehicle than you are in a newer vehicle.
Okay, so you want to see more modern, presumably safer vehicles on the roads, and something else that you are raising today, a vehicle buyback or an end-of-life vehicle scheme. That sounds a lot like the old cash for clunkers that I think the Labor government at the end of, so maybe 2010, 2011 tried to bring in. I think it didn't happen in the end. How would that work?
Yeah, and it's a same premise. So cash for clunkers schemes have operated worldwide very successfully in different countries. The US ran it for some time. Traditionally been aimed at reducing vehicles with poor emissions and modernising the fleet. The simple call here is it has the ability to have that same effect, but having a lens around safety and vehicle safety. So being able to incentivise for more of these vehicles to come off the road with a contribution, therefore, towards a new, more modern vehicle. If you look at the latest data that's coming out, autonomous emergency braking, which some people would be familiar with, it's probably only been in cars for about the last 10 years. But there's data from police and police reported crashes that see up to 55% of crashes reduced through this kind of technology. So that's the goal. Less older cars on the road, modernise our fleet and bring in safer, more modern cars.
Okay, stay there for me, Neil. Neil Lefebvre is the Chief Executive of the Motor Trade Association of WA. Really keen to, forgive the pun, road test this with you today, 1300 22 1025. What do you make of these ideas? I mean, would you take up some of these incentives that Neil is talking about? Have the government buy back your old vehicle or get a few grand to upgrade to a more modern, safer car, 1300 22 1025. And particularly keen to hear from you if you do drive an older car. As Neil's been telling you, the average age of our fleet, just under 12 years old. 1300 22 1025. So, Neil, the question I have is what happens to the older cars? If people upgrade, presumably, unless the government does that buyback, some of those older cars are still in circulation. People still buy them, they still drive them, so they're still on the roads, right?
Yeah, no, look, I think the incentive there would be to ensure these vehicles are coming off the roads and into parts recycling, and there's a whole ecosystem there that exists for that part of the world. So, yeah, the goal would be to ensure we are modernising the fleet.
Feels like fast fashion a bit though, Neil, like the turnover. Isn't it a bit of an environmental waste to kind of get rid of perfectly drivable cars?
Look, you're right, they are perfectly drivable cars, but if we're taking this through a lens of road safety and tackling one area of road safety that hasn't been actively tackled in the state, that ability to bring in this capability is really important. And if you If you look ahead, this is an area that's also moving rapidly. So I was lucky enough to be in China at the end of April at the world's largest auto show. Um, there were several hundred new car launches there, and just about every car I saw had autonomous driving capability. So the Chinese brand we'd all be familiar with, BYD, they recently announced they've got this level 2 assisted driving where a car can essentially steer and accelerate and brake on its own. You still need somebody to be sitting there in overall control. But their research through 3 million cars that have that capability in place has seen 1/6 of reduction in accidents over human driving levels. So it's kind of engineering the human out of the equation here. The pace of technology and AI technology coming into these cars is continuing to make them safer and safer. So if we've got the ability to have technology that can make safer roads, it feels to me a bit like a no-brainer.
Maybe I'm just overconfident, but I still feel like I'd like to be in control of the car instead of the computer, but I know that's not the way things are going. Mark in Margaret River is asking on the text line, is there evidence to show that specific deaths could have been avoided with a newer vehicle? Like, is the thinking behind this sound?
Yeah, it is. So there's copious research that has come out through different organisations over time, and certainly ANCAP, consistently looking at those crashes in older vehicles versus newer vehicles, and a disproportionately high percentage of older vehicles on the road when they are involved in crashes are tending towards fatalities.
Okay. All right. And a few people also asking, well, pointing out they think the touch screens in the newer cars are actually a bigger distraction than you get in old cars.
Yeah, and look, it's great observation. I know there's some changes that are coming through already to ensure that with the proliferation of touchscreens that have come in over recent years, there's some of those vital controls which are now being mandated need to come back to being physical, knobs and buttons in your car to make it easier so you don't end up having to scroll through screens. But similarly, voice control is something that's coming into a lot of modern cars to reduce that reliance and ensure the driver can stay focused on the road. And when you look at a bunch of those kind of crash avoidance things that are coming into these cars, it's going beyond the autonomous emergency braking. There's a lot of stuff that is looking at the driver and detecting fatigue and signs of fatigue. So there's a range of new things that are coming through at, I've got to say, a rapid pace. If you look at a typical modern EV today, for example, they have 6 times as many silicon chips as an F-35 strike fighter and 100 million lines of code driving these things. They're computers on wheels.
Yeah. And just finally, I know that you are keen for people to not switch off the safety features in their car as they go about their business this school holidays. But I have to ask the cynical question, I suppose. I just, with the Road Trauma Trust account sitting there, big pot of money, Motor Trade Association, are you just thinking this would work very well for your members? Are your motivations pure here, Neil?
Yeah, look, the motivations are 100% pure. You come back to looking at National Road Safety Strategy and that calling out the impact of more modern, safe vehicles and the technology in them and having their ability to reduce deaths on the roads. So no better time to raise this into holidays. We know we'll all be up for double demerits, which is a great enforcement thing for trying to manage behaviour. But despite many years of managing behaviour, great infrastructure on our roads. Per RAC's observations a couple of days ago, we're heading for our worst road toll since 2008. So we need to think more broadly about how we solve this.
Okay, we'll see what people think. Thanks for your time, Neil.
Thanks very much, Damian.
Neil Febvre there, the Chief Executive of the Motor Trade Association of WA.